Again, welcome to Children's Books and Adult Discussion. We are going to talk about today. Nana said this is a big responsibility, written and illustrated by Aroara. I'm going to do a read and then we're going to get into some questions after you guys give me your feedback. Everyone hear me clearly?
Yes.
Hey, ladies, I welcome your feedback.
Okay, well, I'll start. I think it was a good read. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think it was a good introduction to a child's experience with responsibility and what it means to be responsible. I think that's a good segue to read to your child, to kind of let them know what it means to be responsible, what kind of things could happen if you're not responsible. So I think it's a good segue to introduce to your child.
I agree with Latoya. I was gonna say the same thing, but I hit the screen and somehow or another Zoom got minimized. But I agree. It's a great opening to teach kids about responsibility, and I like the way they told her. They with that responsibility, you know, came. It told her, now you're a protector of the family. So it also empowered her to realize not only am I going to have to be responsible, I'm also protecting my family with what little I can do. And that also boosts, her, I want to say her self-esteem, because, mom gave me this such a great responsibility, and I want to hold my end. That's why she didn't want to tell mom she lost it. And that's another opener there too, about kind of like keeping secrets that can cause bigger problems. Because had she not found that key and she didn't tell mom, and we all know our parents told us, if you lose my key, anybody can come in and out. So I think that was a great opener, as Latoya said, for responsibility, for a builder on self-esteem and all that stuff. That's it for me.
Thank you. Did you want to add
I
anything, Sir John?
I agree. Everything that was said prior to is spot on. But I'm sitting here going, at 7 years old, we're giving out keys? Really?
I actually had a key at 5.
Oh,
What?
Yeah, I grew up in Red Hook, Brooklyn. My dad worked. He went to work at 2 o'clock in the morning. By the time I woke up, my mom was already at school because she worked at the school. So she was a janitor. So she would be there to open the doors, unlock open the bells and all that stuff. Her and my aunt. So by the time me, my brothers and sisters got up and got ready for school, she was gone. And at that point, my older brothers and sisters were in high school and junior high school. I was in elementary school. So yes, me and the neighborhood kids walked to school, but I also had my own key because I was the first one home. And that was at 5
Wow.
in kindergarten.
I definitely live in a bubble. Um, wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I remember being what we called a latchkey kid.
Yes.
But I don't remember, like, a lot of things are vague. I do remember having it. I don't remember my age, but I do remember having that responsibility. So yeah,
I
it was
mean,
pretty common for a lot of people that I knew.
I too was a latchkey kid in a way. Um, but that wasn't until middle school, and even then I had to go to a neighbor's house to wait until my mother got home. Like, it wasn't like you came in the house by yourself.
Nah. When I came home, I was the first one home. Nobody would be there. So it was my responsibility to make sure, because my mom usually took something out for dinner. And sometimes, if it was a simple thing, I would actually start dinner. And if it wasn't so simple, I would season it so that when she came home, she cooked it.
But now, how old was this?
I was in kindergarten. I was about 5.
Wow.
What the
That's
fuck?
what made me the great
Like,
chef I
okay,
am
so
today.
now I'm realizing that I am. Now I know why my kids are slow.
Oh, no, she didn't say that.
Felicia, stop. Please, Miss
No,
Felicia, stop it.
I'm not even joking. Like my perimeter, and she's seen and interacted with my children. Now, grant you, they're fine. They're fine as far as academically. They do what they choose to do. But I oftentimes sit down and I go, "What's wrong with my kids?" As far as the independence is concerned, Leah is not. She's 11, and I'm not even thinking about giving her a key. I'm literally setting up ways to get her to and from middle school because she's not ready. And I guess it's because I was cared for the same way. So I guess I'm doing what was instilled in me without.
And there's
And now
nothing
that I'm
wrong
hearing
with
that,
that. There's nothing, it's different time, different measures. See, I grew up in the 70s. So what's going on today wasn't going on back then. Like, we could actually leave our apartment doors wide open and not worry about anybody coming in. If somebody came in, it was a neighbor. Can I borrow this? Oh, your mother let me hold. The things that are going on now wasn't happening back then. We were a real community. Like, if you got caught doing something, you got the neighborhood ass whooping back then.
right,
Nowadays, you can't put your hand on nobody's kid.
I'll give you that. That is
I'm not
correct.
gonna say
But
your kids are slow. What I'm gonna say is it's a different time and it calls for different measures.
see, even I mean, I came up in the 70s, East New York, walking to and fro with a group of kids,
Right.
grant you. And we would walk past crackheads offering us things, and we knew who to avoid. We watched out for the black van and the white van.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had those lessons given to us, and we did have neighborhood drug dealers that kind of looked out for us. We didn't know they were drug dealers until a little bit later, but you
Right.
know 11 years old, you knew who the fast boys were. You kind of knew who the hot boys were. You knew a lot, but it never really touched me like that. Like, I would say I grew up in the crack era, but I'm not of the crack era because I
And
was
that's
never
how I feel. That's
allowed
how
to be in the streets like that.
mm-hmm.
You feel me?
I
Like I said, I would walk home with friends from school, and when I broke off, I only had to walk a half a block, and the neighbor was hanging out the window. And like you said, it was a neighborhood type of deal. So my mother had friends up and down the route that I would take, the
right.
various routes that I would take. And God forbid, oh, I saw your daughter kissing, or I saw your daughter with this little fast ass boy, and all of that. She knew my day before she even got home.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it was only for an hour and a half, but I did have to go check in with the neighbor, sit down, show homework, start homework, maybe get a snack there, talk to my friends that was in the house. And then my mom would come in, she would have her conversations, and then we're home. I'm kind of thinking back, my girlfriend, she was definitely a latchkey kid. She had to run into the building, and her mother would literally time her from the time we got out of school to the time that she made the phone call to her at the office. And then her mother would check back in a couple of times to see if any of her friends was in the apartment, or you know I remember sitting on her apartment floor, on the outside of her apartment door, sliding notes back and forward, doing homework that way, because we wasn't allowed in the house. And technically we didn't break mom's rule,
Right.
even though we were sitting at the door gossiping and running our mouths. I remember it, but it, again, not my story. So for me to think, like, I literally modify my whole life around my kids. What job I take, what hours I work,
Yeah,
how far is the school from where I need to be.
yeah. And
Wow.
you know what? I think we've all done that because I knew how I grew up, and my kids don't have that experience. Someone was always there. You know what I'm saying? And by
Right.
the time we moved here, my oldest daughter was in high school. And my thing is, if in high school you can't regulate your brother and sister, and they're not far apart in age, if you can't regulate and I run a tight ship, and my word is law. So when I say don't do, damn it, don't do. And that's how my mother ran. It was a tight ship because if any one chain falters, the entire system is broken.
Right.
So when my mother said, like, she never checked homework. My mother never checked homework because the thing is, that is your job. I should not, unless you have a question or you're not sure what you're doing, you're good. And we went up the chain of command. If I didn't understand something, I went to them first. And if they couldn't get it to me, then I went to mom. Like, mom was the last, like, if I go to her, she goes, well, you know what? You didn't get it, baby. No, I didn't, mom. I need help. So, and like I said, everybody had their role. By the time my little sisters came along, my role was to babysit, and I was 7 when my next sister was born. So I would babysit. Like when I left school, my mom would bring them home with me and she would go back. But by the time I got really settled in, like my other sisters and they would be there and we would be taking care of the kids until my mom or my dad got home. But my dad got home pretty early. So it wasn't like we were there for hours with these kids. Plus we had an upstairs neighbor that would always come down and we would leave the door open and her kids and us would be running back and forth. So there was always an adult present, but my mom, and that's the one thing I did want was a tight ship. I wanted a tight ship. So I don't want to have to come home and be like, you know what, at 3 or 4 saying, you know, why wasn't this done? Why wasn't that done? No, I'm tired already. I should be able to enjoy you guys because all the work is done unless there's a problem or a question. So you make adjustments for your kids. And when they got any school they went to, I always made sure I was right across the street. I lived right across the street where I could watch them go. And when I felt that being taken from me when my oldest daughter was going to go to high school, we left the state because I was not letting my daughter get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, get on a bus to a train to another bus to make it to school by 7:30. Not happening.
Right.
And they at that point they hadn't really rode New York City public transportation, so not happening.
Right.
So like I said, different times, different measures. You take what you needed and you left the rest back. Simple as that.
I mean, but it's good to have these conversations because again, I'm working off of the paradigm that I remember or the paradigm I wanted. Maybe I'm skewing something, I don't know. I can see that because I do see some 4-year-olds that are very much socially advanced more than I expect. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Great, you guys kind of just mulled on through the questions there. So on average, what is the, I guess, I don't want to say acceptable age? Because even I pondered it at my daughter's age of 5. Just giving her that feeling of empowerment of having the key, even though there's no way she's coming and going anywhere by herself. But just feeling like she could be that responsible. But for me, it was definitely like 7, 8. So what is it like an average age now, you guys think, to give a child a key?
I think I gave Destiny a key. I want to say in about 3rd or 4th grade, maybe. But with that key, I don't know if you remember, there was a phone where they could make 3 phone calls. And in her phone, she had my number, her dad's number, and wrong. She knew to call us 3, or you could automatically call 911. And it also had a button on it. If she pushed it, all of us would be alerted to come directly to her. It gave us a little map and showed us where she was. And I want to say she was in either 4th or 5th grade at that point. And but her friends were way more advanced. I mean, they had like real cell phones. They had like real everything. And she would feel funny like they got keys and cell phones. No, baby. No. And my question to them always was, You can get anything you want from me, but ask yourself before you even come to me, is it age appropriate? And even today, they can tell you that. That's my first question. Oh my, I want eyelashes. Is it age appropriate? Just because your friends do it, don't mean mama gonna let you go and do it. Because my son didn't get a cell phone until he was in high school. What you need a cell phone for? Everybody got one. Well, if everybody got one, usually has to call me. How about that? So it goes back what you feel is age appropriate. So at that point, Destiny was very responsible. And I mean very. Like sitting down, making lunches for her brother and sister. And she's like, I think 2 years older than my daughter and maybe 5 years older than my youngest son. So at 7 and 8, she basically like took up the slack when it was just me and her here. So it goes by responsibility and what you know your child is ready for. Don't give them unattainable goals. Like at 7 years old, I don't expect you to drive me anywhere, but my son was, but that was different. It goes by each individual person. Did I lose everybody? Everybody went blank on me.
No, I'm here. I'm listening.
No, I agree. I guess it just depends, like you said, on the individual. Your original question in regards to or comment about your daughter, maybe you could initiate like having a key for like, a diary or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, if the theme is, responsibility, ownership of something, it could be a key to something that belongs to her or something that is responsible, not necessarily like a home. So
That's an excellent idea.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So my next question for you ladies is, for those of you who are latchkey kids like myself, do you feel that made you more responsible at that time, or help you to understand what responsibility really is, just that in of itself, when you were a child?
Definitely. I mean, all I've ever known is responsibility. So, like I said, at about kindergarten, first grade, and I can remember so well because I can still remember my teachers, where I was at that point in my life. So fast forward and now, you're talking about 45, 46 years later, I'm still that kind of person. I'm very responsible. I take my word as my bond. So if I say it, it's going to happen. Kids today lack that. They just say things to get you out their hair and out their face, and they don't care that their word is the only thing they can really stand on. So I think being a latchkey kid taught me responsibility. It taught me, and like I said, it also taught me self-esteem, because it made me realize that I'm part of the puzzle. And to figure out this puzzle, I got to play my role. And even as an adult, that's the same thing we all face. You're part of that puzzle. You got to play your role, So definitely being a latchkey kid made me responsible. It made me accountable. Anybody else?
I feel like one of the things that should be considered is what is in that unit. Like, I understand the piece of the puzzle, and I understand everybody should have a role, and I agree to that because it gives you the purpose. In my circumstance, it's only two. You get what I'm saying? So it's only two of us. And could she become more of a cog in this wheel? I would love it. But I'm still trying to develop certain characters inside of her. I'm still working with her own self-knowledge, her own awareness of her abilities, her own
That goes back to whether or not they're ready for that responsibility. Only you know, and you feel that she's not. So what you do is you keep preparing her. You know your kid. You know her responsibility level. If she's not on that level, you start on small increments.
right.
And a lot of that has to do with trust. You said she's 11. Well, at 11, you know what? You get out of school at 3, whatever. I need you home by this time. Or you need, certain things you got to let her, tell her the rule and see if she follow it. And it starts with responsibility. And that responsibility that you giving her gains your trust and letting you know what next level she can go to. I mean, if you feel your kid is not good at getting that key right now, then by all means do not give her that key because you know.
Yeah, and then you have to, like, for me, I understand that I'm still working to try and figure out if this is ADHD, where your focus just you're like the family circle kids. You know, you send her to the kitchen and she's in the basement. You're like, what the how the fuck? What? But you know, it's like you do need to know your kid, and I think that she is requesting a key, but I'm not. I need to see some other steps. Like, yeah, I like the idea of giving her personal stuff.
But
If
did
you
you
can
tell her
keep
that?
care of your cell phone safely for 2 years, then maybe we can see that you can't, you won't lose a key. Or, I would love to be able to give her a pet to see if she could care for that inside the home and meet its needs.
Do
But
you? Okay, I'm sorry. Do you think with what you're trying to develop with her, maybe you can set up some steps along the way to help her, be responsible in all of those things, like set up different things. Um, like for example, like you said, keeping a cell phone safely. Like maybe she may need, okay, this is your bag for your cell phone. When you come home, put your cell phone here. Like put several things in place for her to be like kind of setting her up for success. Not saying that you don't, but I'm just trying to like brainstorm some things that maybe some people might need a certain layout to help them achieve those things. Because
absolutely, absolutely. And you kind of blacked out there, but what I did gather was make a plan and see if she can excel with the steps laid out. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
we're
Yes.
working on that. Yes, yes. I'm literally working on giving her clear instructions. I've gone so far as to make lists like, okay, so when you get out of school, let's not forget these items. Make sure they're in your book bag because, last year when she was K through 4, it was just me and the janitor being on first name basis. Hey, Felicia, you're here for what now? Okay, let me open up this room. She was in that room. Let's check that room. So now that she's in middle school or going to middle school next year, yeah, I don't want to do that. I am stepping back, and we did have that conversation. And I like the ideas that are presented in the book, and I like the way that the book gave all the necessary encouragement for them to want to be independent. I don't know. 7 years old is a little young for me. I'm
Yeah.
thinking maybe middle school age. Maybe, when I don't know. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking I gave my oldest keys when she was in high school. Ninth grade, yeah. It was ninth grade that she got it. But then I'm also unique that all of my children have to travel for school.
Mm.
So she had to get on a bus and a train to get to school. So she was very much on it. She's exceedingly responsible when she chooses to be.
And that's where I go back to different times, different measures. All you can have 6 kids from the same mother and the same father, and you'll get 6 different outcomes every single time.
Exactly.
My oldest, I would trust her to be responsible to the ends of the earth. That second one, that's my no limit soldier. That's the one I have to put the reins on. But different times, different measures. And like I said, every child is an individual and they're different. You know what your kid is capable of. I would have never gave my second child a key. At 21, 22 years old, now she don't even have a key to my house. No, bruh. No,
Wow.
she don't. She got her key taken when she was about 16 and has not gotten it back yet. You just got to do the
Right.
steps to get her ready. That's all.
Yeah.
That brings me to another point, ladies. In the book, Elizabeth lost her key. Now, what happens when a child who's given adult responsibility experiences adult anxiety?
Ooh, that's a whole nother conversation.
Mm.
That is
And
very
how does that
prevalent
play
right
out
now.
when they become an adult?
I'm gonna tell you, we got our asses towed up. But
Um,
what with my kids, what I did was I had to pull back. I did not beat them for that. You check yourself. Like a situation happened in my home, and it should not have happened because I gave my daughter adult responsibilities. Her father was mad and he wanted to punish her. I said no. She is not responsible for that. We laid that on her shoulders and she dealt with it as best as she could. Let it slide. That's nothing. And I actually ended up having to take a week off from work to correct the situation because I did not want her to get the brunt of that. I did not want her to feel responsible in any way whatsoever because I gave her an adult responsibility, which I knew I shouldn't have done it. I was being lazy. And no, but as a kid, oh, I got my ass tore up. I just knew I wasn't going to do it to mine. Now they got
are
their
y'all
beat.
able to hear me?
Yes.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I think it depends on the task that was given to the child.
Yes.
That determines whether or not they'll get a beating or you fall back. Because depending on the task, sometimes you just need to give your child a hug and say, "I shouldn't have gave you that to do.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't for you. That was my responsibility, and I put it on your shoulders."
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes you say, "Now listen, you of the age where you know better, so I have to beat you now."
What I
So I
find,
think it depends. Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, from my experience, I find that the people who were given those great responsibilities super early wind up being adults who can't complete tasks. I mean, common things like, oh, I got to take a payday loan because my rent is 3 months back. What?
Ooh.
No, bro.
I
No.
have another individual who literally told me, I'm not raising my kids because I raised my siblings.
Mm.
So I have had horrible experiences with adults who refuse to accept responsibility and refuse to connect it to the fact that they was expected to be super responsible at a super young age.
And I could see that. I could, like I said, I was given responsibility early, and I'm direct opposite of what you're talking about. Like my thing is, if I ain't got it, I will sit my behind down till I earn it or I get it. But I can also see where you're saying that kids that were given responsibility so early, they don't want it now. I've seen that amongst my peers. Like you said, they're not raising their own. Their mother and their father or whoever, somebody else in the family is raising their kids. And I see the payday loan issue because you know what? They would, if I didn't have it, I sat down and I earned it. Like, say if I want to go on a trip, I'm retired. Most of you know that. My family knows that. I'm retired. I retired in 2009. But I like to travel. So that's why I work. My bills are taken care of. But all that extra nitty gritty stuff I want, the foo-foo-ness, I work for that. And if I ain't got it, yo, I'm not going. All right, sorry, I'll catch y'all on the next flight out. But
See, now that concept of if I don't have it, I'll work to get it
mm-hmm.
is missing from at least 10 of the people I know. That
Wow.
is missing from it. The ability to plan, the ability to self-discipline, it's gone. It's not, I don't even think it registered.
Mm. Mm. And I can see that. I don't know what was in the formula I was given. All I knew is I knew my mom ran a tight ship. And her thing was another thing we were taught, if we couldn't buy it or afford it, we made it.
Now, you
So
know what? I think the difference is, as I'm sitting here listening, I may be 100% wrong on this one, but the individuals that I'm speaking about had less than 3 people in their unit. You get what I'm saying? So with
could
you,
be,
you had an ability to watch your siblings
right?
succeed or fail at certain things, and you saw different characters, and you learned from watching too, and you knew what you wanted for yourself.
That is true.
I'm feeling like that's the missing piece. And it's almost like I'm trying to recall a couple of the conversations I've had. I have had conversations, and it's like, well, I'm building my own community. This world I got to figure out by myself. I got to make the map and the road. And it's like, wow, that's heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sounds like, some people just get burnt out, at an early age or whatever, and they just say, this is not for me. I'm not doing it again. But I'm not one of those people, but I'm just gonna, empathize or try to put myself in that position and say that maybe some people make that choice to say that or to do that because I would think that they have a conscious understanding of what responsibility is and what it means. And then maybe they'll say that, once they get to a certain age or, to a certain point, they'll just say that I don't want to do it. Because when you become an adult, you have that choice to say, forget this, So, if a person has the ability or not, I don't know if it's the fact that they have the ability, but I think maybe it could be just a choice.
I think it's a choice. I do. And one thing I would tell my high school students is, even if you don't want to conform, society will conform you. And when I tell them that, it's usually a child that is constantly tardy, constantly coming to school high, constantly being combative. And I tell them, either you can autocorrect or self-correct yourself from now as a child, or as you get older, the things you encounter in life will correct you because society will correct you. Whether you don't want to go to school, okay, now you're working at a second-rate job, making minimum wage, can't make ends meet. Or you're that child that constantly comes to school high. Okay, now you got a criminal record. Nobody wants to be bothered with you. Everybody's tired of you because you lack the responsibility and drive to do what you need to do. Like I said, I tell the kids all the time, either you correct it now or society will put you on autocorrect and you're not going to like what society does. And I think it is a choice. It is most definitely a choice because you're going to tell us at our age, we don't know what we're supposed to and not supposed to do. We make that choice. There are those moments where I say, you know what? I'm all with the fuckery today. And I know I'm going to fuck up. And I'm going to do it on purpose because I got that choice to do it. And those who know me know I am with the fuckery at times. But that's my choice. Now, when you do the fuckery, everybody knows karma and repercussions. Just because you do something don't make you free of the consequences that's going to come with it. And that's what people are not getting now. You got the right to sleep with whoever you want. You got the right to do whatever drug you want and not get caught. But that does not excuse you from the consequences that's going to follow behind it. So it is a choice. But a lot of people nowadays don't think of the consequences. Oh, I'm going to do this. YOLO, you only live one, don't live one life and all that. But yeah, them consequences will fuck you up.
True.
Felicia, I think you're doing an excellent job. I really do. Listening to you.
Thank you.
No, I do, because you told me about your oldest daughter and her responsibility level. And you told me about your youngest daughter. I wanted to choke you when you said, well, maybe it's the ADD, send them to the kitchen, she ended up in the basement. You're a child. She's just not on that level. Different times, different measures. Simple as that. Like I said, my oldest child, I'll trust her to the end of the world. That second one, no, not my no limit soldier. No, sir. No, sir.
We have to take into consideration there's some things that are in play right now that we never even thought about having to deal with.
Yeah.
COVID, the lockdown. You know how much trauma that caused our children?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm waiting patiently for what is said to be an expert to come out with this book about what did it mean when I'm locked in a house with the people I'm born to, but have no real connection to. And I have an adult parent who is so damaged from their own experiences prior to having me that now I gotta try to help them help me, if that makes any sense.
That's deep.
And there's so much, and if in New York in particular, there's so many programs happening right now, and a call for social workers so hard because child abuse has gone up, domestic violence has gone up. I've been at work and heard about at least 3 just family, I don't even know what, massacres, I guess, where a parent killed the whole house,
Wow.
where a partner killed the whole house. And it's like, what the fuck? And we're not prepared to handle it.
Yeah.
We're not prepared to start dealing with, what is it? Nobody is prepared. Like, it's so many levels to this not preparedness. And then children are experiencing anxiety at 2. I'm watching kids who have to use strings from their masks. They pop it off and they got to keep it in their hand, rubbing it to self-soothe. You're 2. What's going on? You should be happy-go-lucky. I'm watching 3-year-olds who tear rooms up. I mean, destroy the whole classroom simply because they were told the word no.
Yeah, buddy.
Or if, their routine is broken, it's nap time, they got to go to the bathroom, and a teacher instructs them to wash their hands when they come out of the bathroom. They just ripping stuff apart. I want to go back to sleep. Whoa. It was only one extra step put into that. You could have went to sleep after you washed your hands. I'm watching 4-year-olds who come in the building looking like they just spoke the biggest blunt ever. And their mom is smelling like hella. I mean, if all of the things on the table, I had to choose one to worry about, I would worry about giving my child a key. Like, all of the other stuff I don't want to have to deal with, but I do have to deal with it daily in school. And you have to realize that these children are going to show up with more problems, plus screen time. I mean, from 2 years old, we're giving them tablets. If not before that, I saw a 9-month-old with a tablet. What does that do? What does that do to your attention? What does that do? What kind of information is that child processing? Is anyone talking with that child to make it make sense? And when they have questions about themselves in relation to that information, are you as a parent ready to talk about it? I know I'm not. Some of the stuff that my daughter comes to me with, I'm just like, give me a moment. Can I have a day to come back to this conversation? I mean, I do get back to it, but at the end of the day, that's my first job, being that parent who's trying her best to be available. Am I always? No, I'm not. I'm tired. I work all day. I'm the sole provider. I'm the sole cleaner. I'm the sole cooker. I'm the sole hairdoer. But I do make an effort. What about those parents that's not making an effort?
Yeah, that's why I said, it definitely takes a village to raise a child, for sure. Because I think a lot of us work in education and we see those things that you've spoken about, and it's really situation with so many different facets that you said. And that's why it's like everybody, all hands on deck. It's like education for holistic education is needed, because working with children really opens your eyes to a lot of things that most people wouldn't even consider. Because I think a lot of times, and myself included, before I started working, in education, you don't think outside the box. You don't think that, people have, these different situations, or people think in a certain type of way because you're so used to the way that you've been raised or your experience. And that's not the case for everybody. So, I guess comment on what you were saying, as far as what about those parents that don't, it's like, thank God that we have those people in place that care, like those people in education that can see those things and try to bridge the gap some kind of way. Because there's definitely a need for holistic education, for sure.
Wow, thank you, ladies. That is a lot to absorb when it comes to just handling the anxieties kids are facing now. Yeah, I like Miss Felicia said, giving them a key. We wish that was the only thing to worry about. And I do wish for simpler times with what's going on now, because, like she said, with the kids early on the tablet, the responsibilities they have now, we don't even think about, and the anxiety that's been created with the child, also with the parent, it far exceeds anything that we experience as kids completely. For those who can, have the ability to educate at home and have that connection that Felicia was talking about, that makes all the difference in the world too when they come into adulthood, in how they deal with certain situations like what we have now. Because when the parent and the child are both getting a responsibility dumped on them that they were not prepared for or didn't have time to adjust to, like I feel a lot of even teachers now are feeling, because things are not at all what they could have like thought of coming into the job with what they have to deal with. And then to also somewhat have to be a social worker over a screen, because a lot of teachers, they could see, something's going on in this child's home. Even if they're like dual coming to school, there was a time when we had the village that when you took your child to school, the teacher would pick up on things, call a parent, you guys would have a conversation, try to mediate or get some help. That doesn't seem to be happening as much. It's getting back on track. And that's another reason we have the huge call for social workers in New York, trying to get everyone back on track and reduce some of what's happening in the homes when it comes to the violence. And thank you, ladies, for putting it out there, because it's definitely something that needs to be said and needs to be heard so that bigger tables can open up, and hopefully things like this. And if anyone is aware of any current like legislations going on, please share them with the group in terms of getting the social workers, any opportunities that's coming up for parents and children to get some help. Please share, because we definitely need it. And that goes into helping to build the community. I want to thank you, ladies, for all your feedback on the book and everything you shared with the questions I asked today, because it was all great, all informative, and definitely healing. I'm going to share and hopefully assist others with some of these things, as well as teachers, because they've had some of these same conversations just between themselves and not really know how to come to parents with it. I think this would be very helpful for them as well. Hope everyone have a good rest of your weekend. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Miss
Bye.
Destiny.
Later.
You know.